Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. To my right or my left, I'm never sure which, is New York City-based jazz alto saxophonist Mike DiRubbo. Hi, Mike.
Hey Ken, how you doing, man? Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. Mike has a new album out. It's out today. It's called Inner Light on the Truth Revolution Recording Collective, which is a label put out by the Curtis brothers, I believe.
Yes.
Mike has made, is this your 10th album or your 11th album?
This is my 10th as a leader. Yeah.
Your 10th as a leader, and Mike has played in all sorts of situations. He made a record with Larry Willis that was really great. Mike studied with Jackie McLean back when it was called the Hart School of Music at a University of Connecticut.
University
And
of
you can hear a
Hartford.
little bit. Sorry.
Sorry, the University of Hartford.
And Mike's new album, I've been listening for the last couple of days. It's a great album. It cuts across a lot of borders in jazz, but the defining element, I think, is your tone and your sound, which is very unique. It has it's kind of a yearning sound. You have a very unique tone. You're a good writer. There's a lot of really great catchy tunes on here, as well as some darker tunes. And I'll just briefly run over a few of the tunes, and I want to ask you just sort of what the story sort of was behind this record.
Yeah.
But these are all his tunes. And who's the band?
The band is my longtime partner on the Hammond B3 organ is Brian Charette. On the drums is J.K. Kim, Jongkuk Kim, and then Andrew Renfroe. It's interesting. I've known about Andrew peripherally because he also went to the same school, but probably 2 decades after I did. Anytime I would bring up, I did a recording on the Positone label in 2010, I think it was. It was an organ trio with Brian and Rudy Royston on drums, and that was called Kronos. And I always thought, like, I'd like to do some kind of a sequel to that record because I like that small group of just organ and drums and saxophone. It's easy to tour around with and duplicate it. Anytime I would mention that record to Brian, he told me that Andrew Renfroe said it was one of his favorite records, So
Wow.
so I had in my mind, like, I have to get Andrew involved in this next project, who, as you can hear, is a pretty burning guitar player. He lives in LA as well now. So he works with Carmen Lundy and a lot of other people. So he's a busy guy.
That's great. Yeah, each player on this record has a very singular personality. Brian Charette is, in my way of thinking, and I interviewed him on this channel,
Mhm.
totally opposite from Andrew in what they're sort of going at and where they're coming from. So that makes it all very fresh. And as I
Mhm.
said, there's a real diversity of tunes on here that I think any person who's into jazz would dig, because of your playing, your compositions. And we were just talking briefly. There's a track called Love the Same, which sounds like to me like that could be a single. Is that a single, or what is the single?
There's a story behind that one there. My girlfriend now, someone that I had, it's recent for us since maybe like January. Um, Her son is neurodiverse. He's nonverbal. He is on this is the spectrum for autism. Um, she's highly involved in that community, and she also makes films. She does a lot of different things, but she was every year they have a short, like a 5 minute short film challenge, a disability film challenge. They call it Easter Seals. She lives in LA, and she was putting together this short film and wanted to include me as well to get to write something for it, some music. And one of the women, one of the actors in the movie, and someone that's in that community, someone by the name of Tony Nelly. She's a poet, but she's nonverbal also. And she communicates by typing on a laminated keyboard. So you would have to look at her fingers and see the letters that she's typing out. And uh, my girlfriend Christina had given me this quote that Tony had come up with as inspiration. And her words were, "It's really important that people understand that people like me love the same." So I took that, and then there was another one from her son that said, "No matter at the end of the day, no matter who you choose, I will always love you." So I took those two little parts as lyrics almost, and then just came up with this melody and chords to it. But this thing got stuck in my head, man. I mean, I mean, for months it was like, and I'm like, okay, if it's stuck in my head, then I just need to record this thing, and maybe other people are going to like it as well. Honestly, this whole record, I really just took that approach. Like, I'm going to be this vessel, whatever's coming into me, it's going to come in, and I'm not going to try to judge it, like it's got to be this, it's got to be that, it's got to be the other thing. So that's why there's real a kind of an eclectic mix of music on there, because it's all the different things that, and most of it was written like in the past 6 months.
You wrote it
Other
in New York.
Yeah, other than that arrangement of Dearly Beloved, I had been playing like in my piano quartet for a while with Brian and Ugana and various people on drums. And then the Straight Street thing, which I played it recently, and then my bass player told me, he's like, "Man, this is not even Straight Street, man. It's like it's its own thing, because even the chords are kind of different." But I don't know, to me, like Straight Street was still, I had that in mind, so it's a very minimalistic version of that. But that and Dearly Beloved are the two arrangements. The rest are all originals.
Tell me about Moment Before Sunrise. I mean, as I noted, that's sort of dark, a yearning melody, a catchy melody, but
Yeah,
there are really upbeat and fun tunes, or grits and gravy tunes like
yeah.
Scrollin' and Trollin', or really challenging tunes like J Key and NYC, where everybody's taking great fours and trading really wonderful ideas. The Moment
Mhm.
Before Sunrise, and to me, Bethune Street are a little bit darker. And you open with Moment Before Sunrise, don't you?
No, no, that's a little bit later on in the we open the CD opens with JK in New York.
Oh, which
Um,
makes sense. Okay.
yeah. Moment Before Sunrise, I don't know, man. I mean, you got to remember, like I'm never going to tell you that I grew up listening to jazz, which I didn't. As you know, I mean, I'm born in 1970, so we're talking late 70s and the 80s when I grew up. I grew up with MTV as a 12, 13-year-old. I played guitar in high school. I loved Van Halen and all, and the heavier groups, man. I still do to this day.
You would
I
never
still,
know that listening
I
to your
mean,
records. I don't
I,
think you
s-
would ever
I,
know that.
s- I still have a guitar. I still play it. But I mean, the saxophone was always there since I was 12,
Huh.
but I didn't, I didn't, my dad didn't have a record collection like other friends of mine that had all the blue notes and stuff like that. I was listening to Italian music around the house growing up, and whatever was on the radio. So you're talking about,
What kind of it? Tell me about the Italian music you grew up with.
I mean, it was
What?
mostly Neapolitans kind of stuff, real heartstring stuff and minor harmonies.
Was that
And
popular Italian music of the time?
yeah, yeah, some of it, and some of it popular from decades before, even like the 40s and 50s.
I
And
was eating at this Italian restaurant the other night called Ciccio, Cicco, and they were
mhm.
playing all this Italian pop music, and I thought it was from the 70s. But then I
Yeah.
started Shazamming it, and it was all modern.
Oh,
Just
okay.
there's kind of to me, a sentimental vibe. I thought it was really, really great. Um,
Yeah.
well, how did that affect you, if it did, as a saxophonist, hearing that very emotional, strong music growing up?
I mean, it just was in there, I mean, that between that and like, going to Catholic school as a kid and having to be in church every Friday and hearing those minor melodies, which I think really lend themselves to kind of rock and heavy metal in a lot of ways too, But I mean, I was into Michael Jackson and Earth, Wind and Fire and all that stuff growing up as well. So I really liked funky stuff too. And melodic things. I mean, I played by ear. I mean, I would just play along with the radio, man.
Huh.
That's what I did. And so, people might have heard my story before, but when really wasn't until I decided to study with Jackie McLean at the University of Hartford when I was 18. that I focused in on jazz music and then really start. And then for me, it's like I put the blinders on. It's like I got all this catching up to do. And I really delved into Charlie Parker and Leslie Young and Dexter Gordon and Wayne Shorter and Joe Henderson and John Coltrane and Sonny Rollins. And it's interesting because primarily the sound of the saxophone that I love the most is tenor, like the sound of the tenor saxophone. And my dad got, and he's also one that loves the sound of the tenor, but he bought me an alto, and
Huh.
and then come to find out that Jackie McLean was also really into that tenor sound too. So it's funny that the universe brought me there, and then being around Jackie, he'd have his horn with him every week when we'd have a group lesson, and just hearing him in that period from 1988 to 92 was a real prolific period in his life because he was making the comeback again.
Oh,
His
right.
group was playing at the Vanguard, so we would drive down and go hear him with Carl Allen and Nat Reeves and Hotep Galetta and his son Renee McLean. I don't know if you remember that album Dynasty had come out at that time in like 1988 with the song Bird Lives and then all the other original compositions of his and Renee's like Dance a Little Mandisa and things like that. But yeah, it wasn't like I wasn't one of these guys that knew all of Jackie McLean's Blue Note recordings before
Right.
I studied with him. It was more about me going there and then, of course, looking into some of those records. But really, I was hearing 1988 Jackie McLean, the modern Jackie McLean, and everything he was playing at that point, and
Right.
his sound at that point. But really, the people I was loved the most were Sonny Rollins and Coltrane and Joe Henderson and Wayne Shorter, and of course Charlie Parker and Sonny Stitt and Dexter Gordon, um, and Benny Golson and George Coleman and so it's kind of overwhelmingly tenor players. Pharoah
That's that's
Sanders,
funny.
yeah. I don't know. It's like, well, why do only the tenor players get to have all the fun? You know what I mean?
Right.
And if you play alto, you could either sound like Cannonball or Bird or maybe Jackie McLean. Those are your choices. There's an occasional guy that might be into Art Pepper. Or, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I just, those, those other, Rollins and Trains are so prolific and just something about the way they played just hit me and touched me.
Sure.
And
Sure.
that's kind of where I went with it. And I have a tenor and I've played tenor over the years. It was never like, oh, there it is. Now Mike's playing the tenor. That's his real instrument. It was never that. It was always like the alto. That's where my sound really is.
Well, I think you have a very strong alto sound. It's very identifiable from record to record. It's a real sort of a bluesy, yearning sort of sound. Um, I wouldn't call it a happy poppy sound. I mean, it's pretty searing at times as well.
Mhm.
Um, but your compositions are more all over the place. This is a more diverse album compositionally than the one I wrote the downbeat story on you on, as I recall.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that was a live record, so I guess it was kind of
Oh,
less
right,
compositions as well. But
right.
I don't know. You didn't ask me what my concept is of writing, but it's just, the keyboard, the piano is a big part of it, and the instrument itself. And I'm just trying to find new ways to put chords together that sound good and are lasting. You know what I mean? And have some quality there that evokes some kind of emotion in someone, whatever it might be.
It's all written in New York, but is any of it inspired by your time in Florida? You were down there for a little while during COVID.
Down there for sure, things are less straight ahead than they are in New York, as far as what you're going to hear.
Well, there
Um,
must be places to play though.
there are places to play, and people play differently. It's not again, it's not like Smalls down there.
So you must have been seen as, this hot shot from New York City.
I don't know. I don't I guess. I mean, I'm just kind of like I'm kind of behind the scenes kind of dude, man. I don't really, I don't walk around with a pink suit and just
Yeah, but
presenting my
you're a little self-deprecating, Mike. I really think you are. You are, man.
I,
You're a great
I mean,
player.
I don't know. Yeah, but like, I just am still from that school of like if if it's that happening, then people are going to seek you out, you know what I mean? And I do understand that you do have to put yourself out there. I get it. But I don't know. I mean, the people that know, and some of my heroes over the years that I got to play with, and some of the compliments I got from people like Harold Mabern and Cecil Payne and Al Foster and these kind of people and Larry Willis. I mean, that fills my heart. That's like, that's more than any kind of money in the bank would ever do for me. I mean, just to know that Harold Mabern would think that I'd be able to stand up there with like a Lee Morgan or someone like that.
Mm.
That's how I wanna. That's how those are the people I still, and I'm not saying I'm comparing myself, but just, that's the level that I want to try to maintain and reach, those of
Um,
our ancestors.
where will you take this album to play around the city? You and the band.
Yeah, that's the hard part, man, of all this, because by the time you realize what the street date's going to be and everything else, and the clubs are booking 6 months out or a year out. So
Wow.
I'm hoping to bring it around as much as I can. I'm working on some stuff for San Francisco right now and the Bay Area a little bit. I'm getting some play out there, luckily. Um, and then yeah, New York, we'll see. But uh, but there's things coming up that I have locally, not with this particular band, but yeah, coming
Cool.
up.
What I also like about this record and all the records of yours I've heard, there's a they're soulful, they're accessible, they're swinging. This one has a lot of diversity, and there's so much. And I don't know how you want to comment on this, if you do or not. I don't know, but there's a lot of music in this city that comes out of this city. It's highly regarded that I just can't stand. I mean, it's just it's like math jazz. Um, and it's like it seems like it's self-consciously complex, uh and composition doesn't seem to be, or even melody doesn't seem to be a part of it. You know what I mean, without calling people out? Am I alone in this thought?
I really just think at the end of the day, if that's what you're hearing, then that's cool, like, and some of it is high level though. Some of it is
Oh
high
yeah,
level.
these guys
Yeah.
play their asses off.
Yeah, and like I I'm inspired by everybody, and that's why I love living in New York, because every night of the week I can go out and get my ass handed to me listening to other people and just keeping an open mind. But the thing that makes you persevere is just knowing who you are, knowing what it is that you offer, because we all have something to offer, each and every one of us, realizing what that is, nurturing it, and then luckily I was around someone like Jackie McLean who had an open mind. His whole career he did. He always had one foot in the future and one foot in the past. He's going to tell you how you're going to learn the music by going back, and you got to spend time with Lester Young. You just can't bullshit it. If you do, you're going to hear it. You have to spend that time. Okay. Some people do it way earlier than I did, and I know that from teaching at these camps and stuff. There's kids now, they're 10, 11, 12 years old that are playing on a pretty high level for that age. So where do they go? I mean, they just keep trying different things, and their mind craves stuff and information. But the point I was trying to make is just understanding who you are and working on that, and trying to bring that to light, like whatever your voice is, whatever. I don't like to do things just to do them. I do try to to push myself to look at different areas, try different things, play with people. I've been lucky to play with a diverse group of people and people that challenge me in different ways. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, it's like your voice. How do you speak? What comes out of your mouth? We're using the same words, but it's got your fingerprint. It's got your identity on it.
But
If you,
but you will allow there is this strain. I asked John Riley once, I said, what is it about all this music? And John Riley said he felt like a lot of this music was being written for grants and to get money. And then a lot of it, he said, is they've given up on melody and they're just searching out, it's all rhythm now. And because you don't hear, I mean, your record, there are melodies and there are catchy melodies. There's very aggressive playing. There's also like in the pocket kind of playing, but a lot of this stuff, like I just use like Mary Halverson as an example. I love what she does, and she can play. Now she plays the Johnny Smith Guild guitar. She can play all that stuff, but then she has her very radical thing. But some of the stuff surrounding that same world, I mean, to me, if there were more jazz like you're playing and less of that, people wouldn't be checking out on jazz and just forgetting it. I mean,
I don't. It's like yeah, I love all those people, and like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just play what I hear and feel, and I'm sure whoever feels and hears whatever they're playing as well. It's just different, man. It's just different. There's room for all of it, and I'm not trying to do anything. If there's one thing I can sleep easy at night and know that everything I did on this album literally came from somewhere else through me, whether it's simple or not simple. And I mean, I don't see the point of just, uh, doing things for a particular purpose or not purpose, but to stump people or whatever. I don't know. I don't think some of the people you mentioned aren't doing that. I think they honestly hear that and feel it. I'm never going to put anyone else down to bring myself up, or
I mean,
I just think it's another language, man. And there's a lot of different languages in this music of jazz. And like, if somebody came on here and started speaking a dialect of Chinese, I wouldn't know what the hell they're saying either. And there's always going to be people that are going to like this over that, or the other thing over the other thing, or this other kind of music is definitely going to get grants more, or this person's going to win a MacArthur grant over this kind of person. And there's always going to be that, but all that shit is out of my control, man. And the older I get, the less I'm concerned about it.
It's a good attitude.
Yeah, man, because it's like, it's hard enough. I'm realizing as I'm getting older, the physicality of playing the saxophone that I just used to take for granted in my 20s.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, I'm practicing more than ever, and I'm feeling the shit in my hands, and like, I never thought about my lungs as much as I do now, like having COVID a couple of times, and you're like, whoa, and different I mean, like that kind of stuff. There's enough to deal with, just, to get out of bed every day and try to be a positive member of society.
I hear you. This is true.
Without like, yeah.
Often active. Yeah.
And man, we're all brothers and sisters in this, man. I mean, shit. I mean, we're musicians. We're like Jedi Knights in this world. That's how I feel. I want to put out shit. I want to put out music that's like, and I don't care what it is, or anyone's else music could be the same too. It's just, it's vibrations, man, and energy. And at the end of the day, am I lifting somebody up? Or maybe I'm making someone think about something they didn't necessarily want to think about, but now it opens up a door for them or something. And these are the things with art that I think are special. And we're still human beings creating it, right? Like, the AI hasn't totally taken over yet.
Yeah.
So let's enjoy what it is that we have to offer, and share in it. And that's the thing about being, that I miss when I was away from New York for a minute during the pandemic was just like, I mean, as soon as I got back, I was going out. I was walking the Smalls and Mesro, and I was like, holy shit, man. You just take this for granted when you do not live in New York City, man.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of great places that you can live and play jazz in Paris and other parts of the world, and some towns in Italy and other places in Japan. And but New York is New York, man. I mean, everyone comes here, and this is the place. And I literally can go out any night of the week and hear such a high level that I did not hear for a couple of years. And that's not putting anyone down, because there's high level players all over the place too, because the world has gotten to be a smaller place with information. But New York is still New York.
New
And
York is the crucible. It really is.
yeah, and the feeling and the energy that you get, and plus the camaraderie. I mean, and just to feel part of a community again, a place where people know who I am and understand a little bit of my history. I mean, that's, yeah, all that stuff is, that feeds your ego, I guess. But even now, I mean, there's just tons of younger people that have no idea who I am. You know what I mean? And so that's why it's good to keep staying out there and keep and mingling with these people.
I appreciate you're very self-deprecating. You're a really heartfelt guy. And I'm really curious to just talk about, I came to the city and I studied drummer for collective for a couple of years, and I played briefly. Then I just kind of lost the spirit. When
Hmm.
my competition was Bill Stewart, why am I still doing this? There's no reason for me to keep doing this. He was like my hero at the time, or even my
Hmm.
friend Zach Danziger, and I kind of
Hmm.
fell into writing. So I got a little taste of it. But what is the life of a in the trenches jazz musician in New York City who's not famous, but who's a wonderful player and works? What's just the day to day?
I mean, it's different depending. I mean, my day to day has been different over the years, depending on my living situation. And right now, I'm in the best situation that I've probably ever been in New York at where I live, because I've been in artist housing that
Where
I
are
was
you?
on and I was on a list for 18 years before I got in here.
Are you in
I'm in the village.
Westbeth?
Yes, yeah,
Oh, that's so
I'm in the village.
great.
Yeah. So,
Fabulous.
I mean, I actually can be an artist right now, which is interesting. Um, so yeah, no, I the main thing throughout all of it is really, so, like what's the old Yogi Berra thing? Like 90% of the game's half mental or something. He said, but it's the same thing with with music. I mean, so much of it is mental. I mean, and and it's even become magnified now with how small the world has gotten, because we all have the world inside our tiny little phone now.
Yeah.
And we all have these communities of 5,000 people, and you're scrolling in there, and rest in peace to one person, and the next thing someone's having a baby. Not somebody just put out an album. Someone's in the hospital. It's just the range of emotions in such a short period of time, to just kind of keep yourself grounded and just and mentally stay healthy and all. It's hard. So just having that perseverance, I think. I mean, I digress a little bit about just what we deal with social media now, but
Yeah, I see some people on social media, like there's some young players, a couple of them right out of the Hart School, and social media is like their runway, their playground. They think I want to see their breakfast and their dinner. And these are pretty well-known jazz cats. Not everybody does that, but there's a young people. I mean, I work a lot of social media, but they really like. I think Fana Alex and Antonio Sanchez, they are masters of social media. I mean, I've written about him a lot. I've written his bios. I've written her bios. They are masters of social media. They are there, and they really know how to work it. And they're very, forward in what they're doing. But some people are not on social media at all in the jazz world, right?
no, yeah, there are some people. I know the bass player I use a lot, Ugano Kegwa. I don't think he has a Facebook page. Does
He's one
someone
of the
like
great New
Mark?
York City cats.
Yeah, yeah. He doesn't need it. It's not necessary for him. I mean, as a bass player, you're going to work a lot if you're pretty good, in New York. So, I do use it, and I have someone help me with it as well. And it's just a fact of life. If you want to be a band leader, you kind of have to. I mean, the clubs are looking for that. They want to see you actively involved, and I'm just reaching out to someone today, and he's telling me, they're looking for people they can present that are gonna fill the club of 85 people for 4 sets, over 2 nights, 350 people. And this is a smaller place even that people don't know about as much.
In the
Upstate a
city?
little bit. Yeah, upstate. I don't want to call the person out, but
Sure.
and I've been in New York since the mid 90s, so it hurts, when people tell you this still. And but at the same time, it is what it is, right? So so we do have to take a little bit of responsibility as musicians and work to try to have some kind of a following, and know that people are going to come out to see us. I mean, you just um
So
but
what do you
times have
do? You
changed.
have a new record out. What is it like being in the trenches, making phone calls, contacting club owners, the whole just give me an idea of what that is exactly.
I mean, I do have people that, for the record, I have people that are helping me with the promotion of it. I mean, this is, I've done it on my own before too, and this time I was able to do it, to hire someone for radio and for print.
Oh, great.
And then and then we do what we can with social media. But even the idea of putting out a record, this is not anything about me having a source of income. That's not what it is anymore. It's being relevant. It's the fact that I'm being able to have this interview with you. And yesterday I had an interview with KCSM in San Mateo in the Bay Area, and there's going to be more coming up. It's just
Great.
reminding people of who you are, what you do, your sound. You're still active, you're still creating, and it gives you a reason to go out and play, and because people are hearing you, and they want to hear you live, and that's the main thing of
You have a copy of
we
the
do.
CD. Can you hold it up?
I do,
Oh,
yeah.
good. I should have asked you to do that first.
There it is. It's a nice Jimmy Katz photo that he took, and the liner notes by Sid Schwartz. Some people
Oh,
might
great.
know
Yeah.
him. Jazz and Coffee. He has an Instagram account. It's still like the fountain of youth here, in a way, just being in New York. You know what I mean? It's and
It
being on this.
motivates you.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, again, I could go out tonight, not even check the listings, and just walk into Smalls or Mesro or wherever, and there's going to be some high level music that I'm going to be inspired by. You know, it doesn't mean I was never the kind of guy that hears something. Oh, I'm going to do that exactly the way it's emulated. No, you just get bits and pieces from people. You get things. You get ideas, like just and I don't know. It's a blessing maybe to just understand who you are, and know how you can take these things and filter it through and still be you. You know what I mean? Without, I never wanted to sound just like this guy or just like that guy or the other guy. I mean, that's why I play a modern horn. That's why I play a weird mouthpiece, compared to every other alto player who wants to
What do
play
you mean a
whatever.
modern horn?
Yeah, like I play a Yanagasawa horn that was made. The horn I play right now was made just before the pandemic. I mean, I didn't go searching for it and spend $15,000 on a Mark VI that was made in 1956, or
What's the
whatever.
difference?
Uh, the difference is those horns are not made anymore, and all of our heroes, a lot of them played those horns, and they're great horns. But they've been making great horns for years in Japan. I mean, Yanagasawa. I mean, a lot of alto players play the Yanagasawas. A lot of my peers. They're beautiful handmade horns that they make in Japan, and I like them.
I don't
And
think any contemporary drummers play old drums. Shit fall apart.
no, yeah, no, it's more of a horn thing. Yeah, like, some people think like that steel doesn't exist anymore, and there's some
All right.
magic. There was some magic about the Mark Sixes, and they do feel great, and they sound good, and then it's the same thing with the old mouthpieces. I mean, people spend thousands of dollars on old saxophone mouthpieces that they then have to spend another $400 on to get them refaced because, hard rubber, you play it over time, it wears out. It's not going to stay the same. And I play on a metal mouthpiece on alto, which is different. It's mostly what tenor players use. But again, why do all the tenor players have to have all the fun? You know what I
Right.
mean?
What's
So
the I'm curious, what's the I tell people this and they don't seem to get it, but what's the challenge of a jazz musician in New York pressing a vinyl run?
the challenge for me is that I would have no place to store them because of my tiny little, you know, that would be the one challenge first. And the second is coming up with another $2,500 or whatever it is to print them. I would love to actually do like a 45 of a couple of these tunes, or maybe I don't know. There's 11 tracks. It's a little over an hour. Could I fit that on a regular LP? Or
40 minutes tops, I think.
I think I'd have to do a double record.
Hmm.
I was just gonna say, like, I literally think, and I can't speak on behalf of all the musicians in New York, but I think if it was up to us, we would all print vinyl too.
Sure.
And it's always been a dream of mine to have my music on vinyl because I love vinyl. And but also more people are buying that than CDs, so of course it would, in that regard, then yeah, maybe you can make some money back by printing vinyl.
But then you got to lug the stuff around to gigs.
But that's the thing, and it's I don't live in a house where I have another room where I could keep all my crap. And yeah,
Well, Mike, thanks for speaking with me, man.
yeah, Ken, I appreciate it, man. It's always a pleasure.
My pleasure. I'll see you in the trenches.
You will see me in the trenches, man, and you'll
Cool.
see me above the trenches too.
Excellent.